Hey everybody, it's Libby with WootRecruit, your go-to recruiter for the high turnover industry, such as cleaning, lawn care, roofing, construction, you name it. If you're in the high turnover industry, we're here to help and support you. We're the first ever recruitment program tailored exclusively for the service-based industry, turning recruiting into a growth engine. I am super excited to have today's guest. Matt, do you want to introduce yourself quickly and we'll jump right in.
Yeah, Matt Green here. Even though my shirt says Green's Lawn Care, we have rebranded into Blue Duck Lawn Care. And we made a massive pivot about 2 years. It started it 3 years ago. We changed every single service that we had previously that built Green's Lawn Care, and we flipped it 180 degrees. And we currently do no services that we did 3 years ago. And the services we provide now we didn't offer 3 years ago. So we made this huge pivot. We had to change a lot of people off the team, bring in new people, and it was a big learning experience.
Awesome. If you want to learn more about his rebranding journey and kind of some tips he gave and what he felt he did right or wrong or struggles, you can catch that on our Fearlessness podcast. We just talked about that for about 45 minutes. But today we want to talk about, culture, recruiting, hiring. And Matt does some really cool stuff in his company. And I wanted him to come on and kind of share with us some of the things he felt like he's done right, some of the lessons he's learned when it comes to recruiting or retention, which is even more important.
Yeah. And I definitely have not made it. We're still learning every single day. And I think if you ever do feel like you made it, you might as well just, chalk that loss up, because none of us will ever make it.
None of us are experts. If anyone tells you they're an expert in this, they're lying, because recruiting and people it's an evolution. It's always changing.
Yeah. And I'll just start this off with saying I used to brag about this, but I'm going to stop bragging about this because we actually lost two people that had been here for a while that were great in the last month.
It's because you started bragging about it.
But prior to that, we hadn't lost anybody in over 2 years, had quit. And so I think that really goes into the culture that you're building and who you're bringing on to do this. But before we get into the interesting things that we do, I think it's super, super important to be transparent, even though when you're bringing them in for an interview, yes, it's a marketing funnel, and you have this top of the funnel, and then as it comes down, it gets narrower, And so when you're up here, you're trying to sell that dream, what they can do here and all the great stuff. But then when they get down here, tell them all the shit that happens, hey, this isn't, this is what you're actually going to be doing. This is the real deal. This is, you're going to be making outbound cold phone calls. Do you love that or do you hate it? If you hate it, let's just end now, because you're never going to be happy here. So really get to the meat of the potatoes at the bottom to make sure that you have a really good hire. But before that, you also have to make sure that their values and their purpose and everything that you guys stand for as a company has to align with them. The people who have all this massive turnover, it's because they don't know who they are as a person, probably. And their company has no idea who they are either. They're just out there churning the midnight oil. And so you bring in these people, and it's the same thing. Your values are over here. Their values are over here. But they had a pulse, so you hired them, and you wonder why you clash all the time. You know,
I had somebody on the podcast the other day. She has 120 cleaning technicians. They own two massive cleaning companies. And she said, it's your values and the culture, and every business owner wants to say, oh, it's them, everybody sucks, nobody wants to work. And she goes, you need to look in the mirror because that's who sucks.
Yeah.
Right? It's because you haven't figured yourself out. She said, you don't even know who you are, because then how would you even know who you want?
Yeah. And this epiphany happened during COVID. I had a customer at one point, and he would tell me, he was a high-end sales rep, and he said, Matt, as part of my compensation, I make every company I work for guarantee me vacation time, but also quarterly vacations. He goes, I don't care what I have to sell. I'll sell enough to pay for all these vacations. So once a quarter, I'm taking a vacation outside of the country. And he said, the company's going to pay for it. I need a week off every single quarter. Plus, I need my normal vacation time. He goes, I need that quarter because I just have to reset my brain and re-figure out where I am. But he goes, in the interview, he says, you know what? Put any number you want on it. I'll sell it. He goes, I will risk all of it. And if you need me to sell an extra $1 million to pay for my 4 weeks of vacations, international travel, he goes, I'll do it. I don't care. I'll do it. But that's what I need. And that's where we need to be able to reset as well. And
I'm
make sure
intrigued by the
that,
confidence.
guess what? He never missed a sales number. Like he was
Man,
just a killer. Yeah.
I like it.
So I don't remember exactly why I told you that, but what we were talking
What was the
about.
culture and like not even knowing what you want? And a lot of times we have to look in the mirror if we have this bad churn because we haven't even established our core. You know how many times I ask people about core values and they kind of roll their eyes because we feel like they're dismissed and there's so many other important things to do in the company and it's just like fluff or words on a wall. But essentially, until you get serious and you really make true core values and a mission and a vision, everyone's going to be working against you and they don't even know it.
Some of me wonders, because I thought that too when I very first started this company. People have core values, they have a mission statement, a vision statement, but what does this really mean? And I thought it was just fluff, and I hadn't drinking the Kool-Aid yet. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
understand. And I wonder if it was a maturity level. Maybe I wasn't mature enough to understand that. I don't know. you know and maybe that goes into the level of applicant that you hire. If they're mature enough to understand a mission statement, a vision statement, know where you're going, so then they can have a career ladder that takes them to where they foresee their career being. Like, if yes, you're in it for yourself to some degree, but that employee is in it for themselves too. They
A
have
hundred
dreams, they have
percent.
aspirations, and they have to be able to see themselves in your company to where their dream is.
So I have two things on that topic. One, I remember I mentioned earlier I'm reading the book maybe that was on the other podcast. I don't know. I'm rereading Think
Yeah.
and Grow Rich. And I'm not rereading it, I'm studying it. And so it is
hmm
so intriguing right now. I've read it years ago. I've read it 10 years ago. I've read it 5 years ago. This year I decided to reread it and reread it and reread it. I'm studying it. But they mention in that book, you do not hit a certain level until you're 40, until you're 30, certain levels because of the lack of maturity.
It's interesting. Our best tech, and you can't discriminate when hiring people. I wish you kind of could a little bit, but our best technicians are over 40 years old. They get it. They understand our core values and who we are. But people that are younger than that, it's just a paycheck to them a lot of times. But that's very interesting that you said that, and
But the
that
book
that
is so
I've
like,
known that
you're
for
reading it and you're like,
years.
oh my God, now I know. Like, oh my gosh. Like, you're kind of
Yeah.
like, now it makes sense. So that's why I've gotten really into studying this book. I'll read like a chapter 4, 5, 6. I mean, I think I've reread chapter 6 times just because I'm trying to
Oh,
like
well.
absorb it and study it. But you're seeing things and
Yeah.
you're like, hey, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I can't get to this point until I'm in my 30s because I don't have the maturity level. I can't get to this point or understanding a concept until I'm in my 40s. And they said real wealth and happiness doesn't even come until you're in your 50s because you're not mature enough to understand what it even
Oh,
means.
that's interesting. That's very interesting. But so that's why we now do these. One thing that's very interesting for our culture that uh, is probably not very popular. Some people that are in our circles probably do it, but like the majority of businesses across the country probably do not do these things. But on Monday morning, so we dropped one this morning, we have 2 videos that get released and releases it into our group chat. We use WhatsApp. And the first one is on the Financial Freedom Project. And so, kind of what we were touching on earlier is I'll go and meet with stakeholders in the community. And these can be people that are financially savvy, insurance people, real estate people, like everything that have something to do with where you would need to be financially. Maybe it's an estate planner. Maybe it's
Mm.
a financial advisor. Maybe it's a CPA. How do you file your taxes and how you should file? Like all these different things. And I went and interviewed them, how to rebuild your credit. And I interviewed them for about an hour. Usually these things last about an hour. Film them, send them off, and then um, our VA will cut them into probably 10 to 12 different little clips. And each one of them are like a minute to 2 minutes long. And so he'll add some music to them and he'll put B-rolls in them. It'll make it a TikTok style, like flashy kind of video. And previously, we had been building these PowerPoints, like to build these courses for all of our team to understand what kind of insurance you need, what kind of, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And they were not engaging with it. But then when we took all that, we interviewed these people, we turned them into TikTok style videos. Now they start getting more engagement. And now the goal is take that engagement if they are, and then they can self-select into that course. And now they have real ownership in wanting to, change that outcome in their life. And so that's the video, the first video. The second video I call vision casting. And now that we've rebranded our company, we have a new purpose statement, we have new vision, new core values, and now we talk about that. And just like Libby, you said, you're really big into sports. You like run a basketball league or something like that. Like, so you have a team and maybe multiple teams in this league. And so, are you a coach or you just run the league?
I used to coach. I don't anymore. I don't have time.
So being a coach, you talk to the kids, you have to keep them, focused. You have to motivate them after the games, after practices, understand, hey, I know you're really sore, but we got to get after it today. Like all the keep them at that in the forefront. And so that's what this vision casting is. It's talking about the vision, the purpose, the values, and keeping it in front of our team and talking about different aspects of it and how it really connects to them. So then they keep drinking that Kool-Aid, per se. They keep understanding this is where we're going. This is the North Star. This is why we work so hard. This is the impacts that we're making in the community. And that is also another 1 to 2 minute video. I send it to the VA. He will edit it, add a little bit of B-roll, and then he'll submit it or, release it on Monday mornings also. So they'll get both of those videos right about 6:30 in the morning. They watch it on their way in or some point on Monday, and they'll respond if they want to, but we know that they're consuming them. So
I
those
love
are
that
two really
because
interesting things.
I love that because you're going to them. You're meeting them where they want to learn. Versus, an hour long PowerPoint. I mean, even that sounds boring to me. And even I do hour long PowerPoints to teach people, but it's like you're creating the content the way they want to digest it, the way they're comfortable digesting it. We're meeting them where they're at. And so I love it. I just did a presentation because I had a prior presentation called Playbooks, where it's how I take processes and I teach people how to make them. But I've just did a new version of this talk and it's called Micro Playbooks. And it has to be within 150 characters, so many seconds if it's a video, because it's the micro learning. It's they can absorb it. You're meeting them where they're at, and it's so much more impactful. And I love that you're doing that on that employee side. For culture,
Yeah.
we do it actually and organize it for training, where we started making micro playbooks, and our team loves it. But I'm definitely going to steal that idea and try to do some more on the culture side. I do a Friday video. We call it TGIF Dispatch. And it's a Friday recap of the week with a little bit of vision in it, but mine's not edited nor have any B-roll in it because I just shoot it live and send it to them in Slack or WhatsApp.
I want to send it on Monday so it sets the tone for the week.
I like that.
A guy that was at the conference that we were just at, Roy Hines,
Yes.
phenomenal guy. And he does a chalk talk every single morning. I can't do that every morning, but he was a coach for all these years and he ran championship level teams. Like, why do you think they become championship level teams? Like, why was he known as the turnaround king? Like, take a terrible program and change them into champions in 4 years. Like, a lot of that is the vision and getting them to buy into that vision of where you're going.
I think one of the things that I learned the most in business, or a lot of things I learned in business, came from sports. One, how to listen to people, how to give direction. Like if I can get a bunch of 7-year-old boys to follow a play, why can't I get my team to do that or like at the business? And it was because of how we were doing it. So when I took the sports analogy, and I've read some really great books on coaches, I love Coach Michael Burt. He's a girls basketball coach, now a business coach, totally like my style. But when I took those methods and applied them into my business is when I started to get results and people to work as a team.
So did you know Roy has a book called Lead Like a Coach?
No, I didn't know that. I'll have to check it
You
out.
don't have. So read the book. It's fantastic. We were sitting at a dinner table. Me and Roy were sitting at a dinner table at a conference, and I said to him, we need to lead our businesses like a coach. We need to lead like a coach in business. Just like you lead a sports team, you need to lead your team the same way. And that's how he came up with the name for his book. So he tells me every time I see him that I gave him the title to his book.
Well, that's
So
awesome.
it's fun.
Love it. So,
So almost like I'm reading a book, right?
yeah, almost. Do you get credit for every sale?
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We try to keep these at about 15 minutes. We're on the 16-minute mark, but I want to thank you, Matt, for joining us here on the WootRecruit podcast. And if you guys enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe and like our WootRecruit channel. We're always on here every week with other business owners to give you guys tips on how to staff, how to grow, how to retain your team. Because at the end of the day, without great people, we cannot deliver a great service. Again, guys, I'm Libby with WootRecruit, your go-to recruiting program.